Hello, everyone. It is Matchbook horse racing time, previewing the Grand National Saturday. Roundknock's Grand National, give it its full title, joined by long shot Ed Quigley, Dan Overall, and Steve Jones, who is on his 254,000th podcast. Welcome along, everyone. We're going to start with the big one. I'm going to remind you, as ever, to like and subscribe, whatever sport you like that Team Matchbook preview for you. You can have that preview in your inbox or on your doorstep, however you like, nice and easy. Best no-cost way of supporting the podcast, not only for the racing, but all sports as well. For example, the Masters preview is out there currently, and the Premier League preview is there tomorrow for a busy week of sport. That's coming your way tomorrow, and another busy weekend of Premier League action. But Grand National Day, first of all, the 4 o'clock at Aintree is the Grand National itself, 34 runners now. And rather than read out every single price, I'll give you them when we get to them. But we've got a whole host of different horses going on. I think we've been good and stuck to 2 or 3 each. I'll come to the man, first of all, who has got 3 selections. And that is Ed Quigley. Welcome back to the podcast. Who do you like? Why?
Good point. Yeah, bit of fun here. 3 versus the field in the win and place markets. The 2021 Cheltenham Gold Cup winner. It makes those 3. Manila Indo at 22s. Harry de Bromhead team in cracking form. Ground won't be a problem. Actually, just going through the profile of Manila Indo. I know he's 11, but he's very lightly raced for his age. I think it's only his 18th start. I was saying there's some David Pipe novices that ran that last season. So, I for his age, there's not many miles on the clock. And again, looking at his profile, he's actually got a very good record, just went fresh. So I think the actual blessing in disguise, although he was my Cheltenham Festival nap in the cross country, I think that might have done him the actual world of good, missing a grueling test there and coming here a fresh horse. I actually think that's perfect for him. His record, inverted commas, first time out, is pretty exceptional. So he's in the book at 22s. And I've gone for a couple of flyers. One of them in Late Night Pass, I think, is a massive price that may not have the residual class of quite a few of these in here, but obviously weighted accordingly. It'd be an amazing story, wouldn't it, if Tom Ellis with his first runner under rules. But the one thing you've got in his favour is Tom absolutely loves and devours these fences. That is no problem at all. Great record over them. Was touched off in the Topham only a couple of years ago as well. Will the horse stay? Well, if you'd said to me 2 years ago, I'd have said not a hope in hell. But, that cross-country race on deep ground at Cheltenham in December over 3-6 or whatever, looked as though he just jumped into the race, 2 out. I think he'll handle ground and jump as well as anything. And I thought he's 60s plus. I thought he was entitled to be playing a part in the, at least in the place markets. And then another one at a huge price. Now, this is the one that fascinates me the most is Capodanno, who was pulled up in this 12 months ago. Now, I watched the race back a year ago. Straight away, I put him down as a non-stayer. Now, it's fascinating here. Willie Mullins totally refutes that claim. And he's put it down to the basis of last year's preparation was an absolute shocker. He'd been off the track for a year. They got one spin into him, and he ran in the National. To his credit, if you watch the race back, coming to 5 out, he's going very, very well, and then empties up the home straight. Now, this season, they've had a much smoother time of things with him. He's won a Cotswold Chase. He ran a cracker as a prep in the Ryanair against Grade 1 horses, like a Protector at Envoy Allen, where he flew up the hill into 4th. And what makes me chuckle is he's only got £1 more for winning a Cotswold Chase and finishing 4th in a Ryanair than he had for last season, for it was essentially a non-event. So I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a much different horse this time around. Whether he stays or not, again, we don't really know. But he wasn't stopping at Cheltenham on deep ground in January, and I rolled the dice with him at a huge price. He could be one of those that trades significantly shorter in running and maybe absolutely petrol gauge comes on late doors. But that's my 3 each way, or win a place versus the field in the big one on Saturday.
Manila Indo 22.0, Capodanno 61.0, Late Night Pass 64.0. Unsurprisingly, all win and place. Dan Overall, beat that.
Well, I've only got 2, so I can't beat it for number, but hopefully in terms of result, we'll go there. But I've had 2 bets in the race so far. First one and main one would be Meeting of the Waters. Now, there was once a time where 7-year-old novice, that would be an automatic red flag. You'd put a line straight through him. But I think it's rather undeniable that the shape of the race is changing. Obviously, Noble Yates, as a 7-year-old novice, won it a couple of years ago. Obviously, over the years, we've had the fences reduced inside, made softer. We've now got less runners. So I think we're going to see a return to where these kind of more unexposed types could well dominate this race rather than the veterans with load of experience. And to be fair to Meeting of the Waters, he isn't your typical 7-year-old novice chaser. He's had 18 starts on the rules, freezing points. He obviously had big handicap experience as well when he won the Paddy Power very easily, and they were just trying so desperately not to get him completely hiked up in the weights after that. Didn't really work. But then obviously all the talk was going into the Ultima. This horse could potentially be a graded horse moving forward, and a lot of accolades thrown his way of what he could potentially be. And I didn't really pay too much attention to him watching that race live because I was so fixated on Chianti Classico, and gladly so. But I just vaguely remember seeing Meeting of the Waters creep into the race and seeing him loom up on the bend and thinking that is the last horse I want to see there. Ultimately couldn't quite get up to Chianti Classico, but you got to remember the front two in that race, Chianti Classico and Twig, were prominent all the way in that Ultima, and that's exactly where you want to be, always tends to be in an Ultima. Meeting of the Waters, on the other hand, was ridden pretty patiently, had to creep into the race, and he made a similar move to the Goffer. They basically mirrored each other. Look where the Goffer finished. He finished 35 lengths away, and then Meeting of the Waters stayed on, I thought, pretty admirably. And obviously there has to be some stamina queries. I think there are of pretty much any horse in this race, bar a few at this trip on relatively deep ground. But I think the way he stayed up the hill in the Ultima there, having made up all that ground, bodes pretty well. And I don't think he had a great prep going into that race anyway. Obviously fell at the first at the DRF, missed a couple of engagements prior to that. I still think there's a fair bit more to come from him, and he's shaped like a horse who could still have a fair bit in hand. Obviously is officially well in as well. I think he's got an awful lot going for him, despite maybe some older trends heads maybe would put a line for him. But I think he's a horse on a steep upward curve. I really like his chances. And the other one I backed at a bigger price is Galia Delato, who definitely blows hot and cold. We generally see her in these smaller field mares races, but I don't think they necessarily suit her. But she has got a fair bit of decent back class to her name. Obviously won a Grade 2 novice chase, ran pretty well in Grade 1 novice company last season as well. And she's only had one run in her staying handicap, which I think is what she really appreciates, which came in the Classic, where she finished a really close second to My Silver Lining. She was giving that mare £20 on that occasion. My Silver Lining's finished close in a couple of major staying handicaps since. And the fact they pulled so well clear indicates to me that that was a pretty good effort. And bearing in mind that race has produced its fair share of Grand National winners in the past, I think there's an awful lot to like about her. She'll definitely go on the ground no matter how testing it is. She seems to really love it. No matter how heavy it is, she will go through it. I think she's probably one of the more assured stayers in the lineup, in my opinion, based on her effort in the Classic. Obviously, mares haven't won this since 1951, but we had Magic of Light finish a close second, obviously, a few years ago to Tiger Roll. I don't see anything about her profile to suggest she wouldn't be capable in a field like this. So yeah, Galia Delato would be the bigger price of my two in the race.
Josh Bullock says Galia will love the ground. Peter's Punt says Robbed Ollinger, which I quite like, Peter. Not sure that, I mean, of the three, he was probably the one that didn't necessarily look like he was going to win, even though I supported him as well. But heck of a race it was. Competitive as well. Steve Jones, who do you like in the Grand National?
I like Marla Mission the most. Do you know what? I think the ground is going to dry out by Saturday. And I think definitely on the normal course, it's going to be verging on good to soft. And I think it'll dry out. I don't think it's going to be desperate on the Grand National course either. And that'll suit. Marla Mission goes on soft ground, goes on any sort of ground. And hasn't been seen. The only thing that puts me off is I know it's planned, but not to have had a run since the Newbury race, when second to That's All Right Gino, when Marla Mission was probably the only one to last the longest, having raced prominently. They all, That's All Right Gino, Mongbeg Genius, and Eldorado Allen, they all came from off the pace sort of thing. So I thought that was a really good effort from Marla Mission, but at least he does come into a fresh horse. And the other thing I like about this horse, well, he would have won the National Hunt Chase at Cheltenham last year when he was ridden very aggressively. That's of course 3 miles 6. So there was no problem with stamina that day. Certainly the jockey and the trainer clearly didn't think there was going to be any stamina issues for that, because he was ridden very aggressively, and until he fouled 2 out, he looked the clear winner. That wasn't much of a race, but it ticks another bit of a box. And I do like the fact that he won over 3 miles over hurdles a couple of times, including when winning the River Don at Doncaster, beating the Real Wacker. So there's a fair bit of back form as well. So I think he's very solid. at the top of the, or towards the top of the market. Was he about 17.0, something like that? I think that underestimates his chance, considering some of the others that are shorter than him. And the other one, I'm going to throw a few quid at Foxy Jacks, because Foxy Jacks won over the cross-country course at Cheltenham back in November, beating Late Night Pass, a horse that's always had the potential, but never quite put it all together. Had a spin over hurdles over Christmas, and it comes into it fresh. Mouse Morris won the race a few years ago. So, yeah, he's not very well handicapped, I don't think, Foxy Jacks. But other than that, he's got the profile to run all right. So, 67.0, I think.
118.0, Steve.
Oh, even better. Twice the fun.
Good luck with that one. Producer Dan fancies Meeting of the Waters at 12.5 and Manila Indo at 22.0. Two horses we've already mentioned. And unsurprisingly, two horses we haven't mentioned, I'm putting up. I like Vanillier, who I think is, if I like Courage Rambler, who I do off the back of the Gold Cup, for all he might have left his mark on him slightly, and he's a lot higher than last year. A £9 reversal with Vanillier. I think Vanillier will finish ahead of Courage Rambler, and he's a bigger price. And I really fancy him. Pretty strongly, 13.3 Vanillier. I think he should be favourite. And amongst others that I like, there are a few others. Obviously, I think I Am Maximus is an obvious one, for example, who I will also be backing. But Galvin at 35.0. I think he's priced up on account of the consideration being the ground won't suit. But we do see with some horses, we saw it at Cheltenham, the ground isn't expected to suit, but class gets them through in handicaps. And I'm hoping it's the same with Galvin. I just thought he was a bit overpriced. He needs to get further than the first, but I think it's too soon to say he doesn't like the fences just because of that first fence unshipped last time he tried it when he was half the price. So 35.0 off £11 lower. Galvin on side for me. No love for Pounder Boy, says Peter. No, Alex says all the money on Meeting of the Waters. It is at the moment, for all JP admitted earlier on ITV Racing, he backed Limerick Lace. Maybe he's just putting us away. I don't know. The 120 at Aintree. We go back in time. And this is the 3-mile handicap hurdle won last year by West Balboa. She is back. Because I mentioned her, I will just start there and get mine out of the way. I think she's got, off the back of last time, did best of those from off the pace. The only one to really get involved. I think she's got a right chance at 6.0. And Black Bamboo, who ran well in the Coral Cup behind the nearly Grade 1 winning Langer Dan at 12.0. I think the step up in distance is really going to suit Black Bamboo. He's looked like that a couple of times. He ran well over 3 miles, again, when getting a bit further back. But a hold-up ride on the hurdles course seems to suit here. Ed, who do you like?
Yeah, you can't leave Dan Skelton's individual out. They're £6 higher than when winning this 12 months ago, but this has clearly been the plan since the days of Monty Python, hasn't it? Soft ground, been targeted at this all year, and hard to kind of boot out the frame. But as a value alternative, I thought the joker in the pack here could be Johnny Who for the John Joe Neal team. The individuals, how should we say, probably flattered to deceive so far to a large extent, but in very esteemed company. Obviously, bolted up at Carlisle, back in November, and then was thrown in the real deep end on just a second hurdle start in the Challow, and was beat 2 lengths running on, ran a really good race on that occasion. Pretty impressed with that. Of course, was only narrowly behind the Jukebox Man, and that horse has gone on to be beating a nose in the Albert Bartlett. So I don't think that's bad form at all. And subsequently, things just haven't quite gone right, including that Albert Bartlett run, of course, which Johnny Who was in. Now, that was his first attempt at 3 miles, and I wonder if young John Joe Jr. could have a go at that again. He got him kind of trapped wide in absolute daylight. The horse was far too keen on heavy ground, and he kind of ran with the choke out and fell in a hole inside the closing stages. I think if they could have the chance again, if they could have got him buried against the rail at the back somewhere and got him to switch off, that would have suited the scenario much better. I mean, his pedigree is all staying. I mean, on his dam side, you're going 3.5 miles, aren't you? So I think in time he will be a proper 3-miler. He goes in the handicap company here off 136. And I think that could be lenient on that shallow hurdle form. There's enough body of work to suggest 136 has a lot of upside to it. And I'd also add in there are quite a few in context exposed individuals in here against a horse. You should say I'm sure we haven't scratched the surface of. given he's having just his 5th start over hurdle. So I think the easy 3, if we can get him switched off and buried in the pack, I wouldn't be shocked if he's better than 136. So yeah, totally respect West Balboa. I don't see her out of the frame, but I'm going with Johnny Who in the winner place markets.
Steve, who do you like?
I like Fine Margin. I think this is my best bet of the day. I really fancy Fine Margin. I think he's got a cracking chance on his second to Slate Lane up at Haydock. That was back in November. That was his first start for Willie Mullins. He had Crambo in behind, albeit getting a stone. He had Gowl Road in behind, who ran well in the Pertemps, and no end of good horses like Santos Blue and Howling Mad Murdoch won next time. So the form of that race, it's on that big Haydock race, their Grade 1 card, and it's been won by good horses. I think Paisley Park even won it going back to handicap, but it's very good. And I just thought that Leopardstown last time, very disappointing, but clearly not his form. And he might just have found the ground just way too bad. And like I say, I think the ground definitely on the normal course is going to dry out by Saturday. And given that this horse had promising form for another yard and has joined Willie Mullins, if you put a line through that Leopardstown run last time, he's favourite, and he's a short price favourite. So I'm going to take the chance that wasn't his form last time because the ground was too soft. I'm going to take the chance that it's drying out, and at 13 something like that, I think he's an astonishing price.
13.0. And Dan Overall, you've been here before.
Too many times. You'd think I'd learn by now. This horse will be the death of me. I think he needs a certain set of conditions, and I think he might have all of them. I think one of them is soft ground, which obviously Steve's mentioned. I mean, we were meant to be swimming today, effectively, and it's looked a fair bit quicker than was expected. So that's worth monitoring. The other things he needs is 3 miles, a galloping left-handed track, and time between his races, and he ticks all those 3 boxes. Obviously, his run behind Botox has in the West Yorkshire Hurdle, I'm still slightly bitter about. He should have won that, and obviously the form of that was worked out pretty well. He clouted every single hurdle in the straight and lost by a length in the end. But I think he's interesting when you go back to his penultimate handicap start was in the 2023 Lanzarote. He was a short head second to a certain West Balboa. And obviously she was favourite for this. And understandably so, I think you can't really deny that she has a clear chance. But Red Risk is now £7 better off with her based on that run at Kempton, obviously a year and a bit ago. And this is only Red Risk's second start in handicap since. Freddie Gingel's back on for the first time since that run in the Lanzarote. And cheek pieces go on. I think there are a few horses look more in need of cheek pieces than Red Risk, because he definitely has a bit about him to not put it all in. So I think those going on for the first time is definitely a positive. If the ground is on the soft side, I think his chance at 29.0 is massively underestimated, given that form of West Balboa and the fact he still is fairly unexposed in his 3-mile handicap hurdles.
All right, confirm the price for you there, which is 29.0. So we've got a few different prices going up, but that's the biggest of the lot. The Mersey Novices Hurdle, couldn't get my head around this. Dan, I'm going to come back to you because Brighter Days Ahead was a sort of personal nap of the festival and was really excited about her. I think the view from the camp was that she, irrespective of the fact they didn't go very fast, she just didn't run her race. But I'm sort of loath to get involved now at the shorter price she is against the boys. I guess off the back of that disappointment. But you're willing to go after her here. Do you think she's value?
I think you're at the fine end of it. I wouldn't much shorter than she currently is. And I think you're probably on the borderline of it. But obviously the dogs were barking about her. She was meant to be the second coming. Gordon couldn't hide his enthusiasm about her. And realistically, that Mares Novice Hurdle turned into just a complete sprint. And bearing in mind, we know Bright Days Ahead has form over significantly further. I just don't think that suited her. She was a bit keen, indicative of the slow pace. Things just didn't work out for her. I mean, Jade de Grouge, she's already come out of that race having things not go her way and proved to be a better mare than she showed on that occasion. I expect Brighter Days Ahead to do likewise here. It was more that I was looking in opposition, and obviously Coldwell Potter, I think you have to have a question about. what he's going to be like here on his first start for Paul Nicholls. His obviously long-term future, he's definitely going to be as a chaser. How geared up is he going to be for this? Outside of that, I just thought the Willie Mullins duo were more his B team. I wouldn't necessarily be overly concerned. Obviously, Jimmy DeSoy put in a really good run in the Gallagher behind Ballyburn. They finished in a bit of a pile eventually, those in behind, nowhere near the class of Ballyburn, but not many are. Are they up to necessarily winning a grade one like this? And obviously, it's going to be, I think, a tough ask to give Brighter Days Ahead £7. I still think there's an awful lot of upside to her. And I think you can forgive that running the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. I don't think that was a true showing. I think getting £7 from some of these, I think she will take a bit of beating.
All right, that is Brighter Days Ahead. Bigger prices afterwards, in particular with you, Ed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I respect Brighter Days Ahead, but I'm going for an absolute mad one in here. Maybe it's not that mad, but horse number 3, Esprit du Potier, for Lucinda Russell, Derek Fox. I can't get my head around why they're entering the horse rated 127, because I think the horse is well handicapped. And I know Steve Jones loves official ratings in grade ones, but the point being, he's 2 stone wrong with a few of these. Why are they bothering? And I'm just convinced this has got Lucinda Russell upset a la Ahoy Senior at 66 to 1 or Apple Away at 3,000 to 1, whatever, coming here. Like, I would love the race to actually be on the opening day. I think the deeper the ground, the better. But crikey almighty, anyone see this thing at Newcastle last time out? Look, it was a nothing race, 1 to 3, etc., etc. I get all that, but came home on the bit by 26 lengths. But what really amazed me was this horse, unlike a Ahoy Senior, perhaps an Apple Away, didn't jump like a future 4-mile chaser. Jumped much more like a 2-mile hurdler. Was very slick from obstacle to obstacle. Looked a real natural. They tried this to say the 3 miles and quick ground in the River Don. The race before, and that didn't work out. But 2.5 on soft, I think much more this horse's bag. And I said, I've been texting Peter Scudamore actually trying to get some info, but he's playing cards very close to his chest here with this horse, because I said off 127, you think you'd be going down the valuable handicap route, but they're tilted at windmills, and I don't think this horse would be disgraced whatsoever. I would love our resident Michael Fish, Steve Jones, to be totally wrong on the weather here, and we could just get a bit more rain on the day just to soften the ground back up. But totally untapped potential here, this horse, and it arrives on the back of a scintillating win, albeit a minor company. So for a yard with a track record of upsets at this meeting, I'm going to take a chance at a massive price.
Steve.
Basically, the horse that wins this is usually come from the 2.5 mile novice at Cheltenham, and Jimmy DeSoul finished second in that, albeit quite well beaten behind Ballyburn. But Ballyburn clearly is the best novice around, one would imagine. And Jimmy DeSoul sort of picked up the pieces coming from last, but even on his hurdles debut, he ran really well to finish second to Asian Master, who ran well in the Supreme. So the form stacks up throughout his career. It was a good effort on the back of just a 1 run and then an easy win at Clonmel to finish second in the clear second at Cheltenham. So I'm going with Jimmy DeSoul. I think the market's wrong. I think the market is based up on Brighter's Days Ahead, who got a right thrashing from Golden Ace, albeit I think Golden Ace is probably a champion hurdle contender for next year. But I can't believe Coldwell Potter. I mean, that's on price tag, but nothing else but price tag. There's no way Coldwell Potter should be as short in the betting as he is. So Jimmy DeSoul for me.
All right, that's the Mersey Novices Hurdle. 3 mile furlong handicap chase is at 230. I'll jump in with Cruise Control, given I sat the last race out. I just wanted a horse on side who was going to stay the trip and handle testing ground for all it's going to have dried up a little bit. Comes here in good form and who can lay out with a pace as well. Again, I don't think you tend to want to get too far back on the chase course. Not so in this race either. And 10.0 Cruise Control, I thought had a better chance than a couple ahead of him in the betting, given that he's also unexposed at the trip, really. He didn't stay the marathon trip on penultimate start and otherwise looked very good back over this distance last time. So I think hopefully a little bit more to come. Steve, straight back at you.
Twig for me, who ran a really good race in the Ultima to finish second to Chianti Classico. with Meeting of the Waters just behind the Grand National horse. And if the ground does dry out, better than it was at Cheltenham, because Twig it much prefers it decent ground. It was too soft for him. I was amazed he was able to run that well last time at Cheltenham. But if it does dry out, or even if it doesn't, he's still got a really good chance of what he showed at Cheltenham. He's just a really tough, honest horse. And Bo Morgan takes off £5. He is a very, very good rider.
And Ed.
I'm with the market leader. Not usually my modus operandi, but yeah, I really like Quigley here. I've been totally against this horse all season. I mean, he jumped like a vending machine, didn't he, back at Cheltenham's November meeting, and then again in that really hot race with Grey Dawn and Ginny's Destiny et al. Hit everything in the December meeting. 1-0 race at Exeter when allowed to plod around, and so yeah, I just thought I couldn't have him on my mind for the plate. I thought you'd want to watch the race from behind the sofa, given how he'd been jumping earlier in the season, but then everything just seemed to absolutely click in the jumping department. Watching the replay of the plate, I was waiting for those kind of errors to get him on the back foot in a big field, but he jumped much more like an old hand. Now it's got to be taken on trust that he's, he's turned a leaf now and he's learning on the job. But with a clear round here, I think to get nudged up to only 143 for finishing second in the plate is, I think that could be lenient. And of course, he attacked on the far side. You had Ben Pauling's horse who won it, shake him up. Harry drifted near side, and perhaps he was attacking on the wrong part of the track. But either way, flew up the hill on deep ground on the new course at Cheltenham over 2.5, up to 3 for the first time. I think that will suit. I also think, if anything, that will take even a little bit more pressure off his jumping, which, to say, based on that evidence of last time out, I think that, that was a massive turnaround in jumping technique. And I just think he's going to be better than 143 over 3 miles. So I should have my... instead of my Cameron Smith Master shirt on, I should have my John Joe shirt on for Saturday, because, I'm very much loading up on a few of their players. But do like Quigley. Yep, short enough, but I think he'll get the job done.
We'll move on to the staying hurdle. And Dan, I'll bring you in here with one who's, I guess, not gone the obvious route, but he's 9.5.
No, in Hidden Valley Lake, I just wanted something that's coming from a race that isn't just these typical 3-mile races we've been seeing all season, because I've been saying for a while, I think they're much of a muchness. Obviously, a few of these have been here for so many years, and he's probably the one in the lineup, maybe with the exception of the likes of Hewick and Monkfish, and maybe Crambo to a certain extent, who are relatively fresh faces in this exact kind of race. Obviously, was a highly promising novice hurdler, beat Course Survivor easily in the 3-mile Grade 3, only narrowly beaten by Monty Starr in a Grade 3 at Clonmel in the novice hurdle season before they both ran in the Albert Bartlett. They both ran poorly. I think they actually had a hard race against each other that day. He was giving Monty Starr £6 that day as well. So it was a really good run when you look back at it. Obviously, we know Monty Starr turned out to be a very high-class novice chaser. Fell on his chase debut, bounced back in the Boyne in good fashion, beating a mixed field, like a very much a couple having prep runs, a couple just not at that level. So what exactly he achieved there is probably up to debate, but he's the one in here who could just have a bit more progression in them. Obviously, Rob Call could have sent any number here. Obviously, Irish Point, Tia Hoopu were all entered. They've gone with Hidden Valley Lake in the end, and I'm not surprised to see he's been well backed, because I think people elsewhere also are looking for an alternative to the tried and trusted ones in this division who are solid, but not exactly inspiring, in my opinion.
Well, and I wonder if Monkfish fits that bill. Who he was tempting. Alvario Mihal DC might be on him. He was on him for the stayers, but they went down the Gold Cup route. Ed.
Yeah, I'd be with Monkfish. I think it's much more the sensible option. I was wincing. I think I mentioned it on the show, the stayers hurdle. I said before we took the Hipu out of it, I think you could, it was rife for something to come through. And Monkfish, 10 years young, etc., but very low mileage, mainly due to the setbacks and injuries he's had over the last couple of years. But he's a Grade 1 winning hurdler over 3 miles on his penultimate start at Gorham Park on the comeback line. No, the raw form of beating a 15-year-old Somerville boy's no good or whatever, but he showed the old fire still burn. He won't mind soft ground. He'll stay all day. He's a big old price for that combination of Mullins and Townend. And to kind of echo Dan's point, it's the same old faces here. And, Monkfish is a same old face, but the tangible form lines of Monkfish with the likes of the Flooring Porters and the Adashel Drashers this world is slightly off kilter, isn't it? He's still an unexposed 10-year-old who's a multiple Grade 1 winner. I think he's a player here. I definitely could see him getting involved. So, Monkfish for myself. The Right Move back over hurdles.
I'm going to go with a horse who won this last year, won the last two, and I just think is a really solid bet, win and place at 7.0. I know it's really boring, but how do you get this horse out the three? He ran a really good race at Cheltenham, beaten 11 lengths, I know, when outpaced, but I don't think he was quite cooking at the same way he was at that race 12 months ago, where he just come to hand a little bit sooner. But that should have brought him on a good bit. I think this test suits him more than Cheltenham anyway, and yeah, I thought he should be closer than twice the price of Flooring Porter anyway, because I think he'll take a big step forward for that run last time. So, Sire du Burley, win and place. Steve?
I went round and round and round and round and round in this one, and I just thought Crambo is running the Stayers hurdle was probably just too bad to be true. Maybe the track didn't suit or whatever it was, but maybe the form of his Ascot win didn't work out very well, but he's the one with a bit of upside where the rest are exposed, or most of them are. So Crambo, but only very small.
And Steve, you're the only one with a bet in the Maghall Novices Chase, which is a deep renewal. The horse, one of the horses I backed in the Arco, he ran no race at all. Quilixios.
Yeah, he lost it all at the start because I think the rider thought that they were not going to go, or they were going to be called back, and that wasn't the case. And by the time that they had jumped off, and Rachel Blackmore realised that they were a goer, she had to make her ground up very quickly, and then she was hampered at the second fence. So nothing went right. But when you consider that Quilixios was 11-2 and Founder 50 was 13-2, or 5.5 and 6.5 for more up-to-date viewers, the way they bet is just bonkers, because Quilixios, you just ignore that run totally. And Founder 50 is just 2.25 or something, and Quilixios is 12. So if I fancied Quilixios at Cheltenham, which I did, I got to go in again at that sort of price. And I think there's a lot of, when you consider Etillon is in there, I know Etillon, Dan Scout's been doing things in handicaps, but Etillon won a handicap last time, a 0-135. Well, if Etillon wins this, then fair play, but I couldn't have a horse with that profile personally at that sort of price. So, yeah, Quilixios.
Quilixios at 12.0. Any other Saturday bets? Dan, first of all, this is a phrase that Steve asks regularly in his cardigan.
Yeah, one more stroke in the 130 at Newcastle. It's just one in my tracker. I think he's quite a useful horse. Second in a couple of high standard point-to-points. Won his 2 novice hurdles. I think the form of the latter is pretty strong for that kind of level. Opening mark 115, I think, is lenient and will prove lenient in time. Competitive little race, but yeah, he's one in my tracker with the view to going into handicaps now, and I think he'll be a decent handicap chaser next season as well.
You've got a cat, haven't you, Steve? Good.
Yeah, George. Yeah, he's not here. He's locked out. Sometimes he likes to come and poke his head around, but not today.
Castle Ivers is my other bet on the day. 11.0 in the bumper for Ollie Murphy, who won the race that Ollie's won the last couple of years with a really good horse. I was pretty taken with it. John Jones is mad short at the top of the betting. Maybe too good, but win place, I'd have Castle Ivers on board.
We couldn't go a whole podcast without you tipping up an Ollie Murphy horse.
Hasn't happened for some time. But yeah, we're back. Matchbook Zero long shot time then. Matchbook Zero goes live at 10 a.m. each day. And if you're looking for an enhanced price, Matchbook Zero is the place to find it, because you're going to get a bigger price, almost certainly, with an exchange. And add to that, there's zero margin, zero commission on Matchbook Zero. Get on there from 10 a.m. each day to take advantage of those likely enhanced prices. Mine's Black Bamboo. Steve?
Quilixios, 5 o'clock.
Ed?
Esprit du Poitiers in the 155.
Dan?
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So please, someone knock me up, throw away the key, because Red Risk gets one more chance in that 3-mile handicap hurdle.
Best bets for Grand National Saturday. Mine is a cheeky win place shout on Sire du Burley. Steve?
Fine margin in the first race.
Ed?
Cribilli in the 230. I think he's got £10 in hand up in trip.
Producer Dan put Meeting of the Waters in the Grand National. And other Dan?
Yep, I've joined him, mainly because the others took all the other races, but go big or go home.
Meeting of the Waters for the Dans, the Dan Teams team. Thanks ever so much, everyone. Hope we found the winner of the Grand National for you. We've certainly got a few arrows, but if not, we hope you enjoy the race thoroughly. And thanks for tuning in for all the Grand National previews. Have an excellent, as we are doing this right now, last couple of days at Aintree. Bye-bye.